when we're arguing about ethics, uh, I think that what we're doing is we're trying to bring our moral feelings into some kind of reflective equilibrium. That we're trying to bring them into a internally consistent picture, and I would argue that's like really the only thing that we can do when we're arguing about ethics or normative subjects in general, right? My starting point is taking the Humean point about facts and values pretty seriously, and to the point that I'm pretty skeptical about the idea that there's some sort of moral reality to which we have any access other than moral intuitions, because I pretty much think it's constant. I mean, if you want to talk that way, right, that they're moral facts, those would be kind of constituted by those feelings in some way. So in terms of what kind of schmancy philosophical framework to sort of codify that rough intuitive picture in, I'm a little bit more agnostic about. I'm attracted to things like quasi-realism a la Simon Blackburn, or maybe Gil Harman's sort of quasi-objectivist view about ethics, unrelated to objectivism in the bad sense. And I think, like views according to which, like, what we're really doing, right? The sort of subject matter is values, commitments that we can have a discussion about, because with any luck, there's enough there that's shared, that you can influence people to say, oh, drop this value commitment in favor of this deeper one that it turns out that you also have, or just because out of inconsistency with a bunch that might be more shallowly rooted, but collectively have the power to uproot something else, right? So that's the sort of that would be the kind of view that I take about meta ethics. As far as normative ethics goes, I guess I'd just say two things just to get us rolling before we start really getting into utilitarianism, which are, one, I think that it's a mistake to try to have a unified theory of like personal virtue, interpersonal morality on the one hand, and social justice on the other. My starting bias is that those are really different things. That what we think makes something a good social institution and what we think makes a person a good person, are both broadly moral concepts, but I think they're very different kinds of moral concepts. I think that I think interpersonal morality is appropriately partialistic, that it's not wrong to sort of prioritize your own interests or the interests of your loved ones to a point, whereas good social institutions, what makes them, like, I think it's very much in the nature of what makes them good that they're completely impartial. And so I think good social institutions are ones that, that promote certain kinds of egalitarian outcomes. We can get into the details of what I think that looks like. I think that, like,
I think that we have sort of enough, we're discussing a sufficiently wide range of normative judgments that it may make sense to not go too much into political philosophy.
No, that's fair. That's fair, right? But they have but that's where I'm coming from. I'll just say that I actually, here, maybe this could be the last thing, right? That I say in this initial part of the discussion, that I think that it's that when it comes to political philosophy, I tend to think that what's right about utilitarianism, what I find intuitively compelling about it, I tend to think is better captured by something like Rawls's framework, which I think sort of takes certain kinds of consequences into account in an appropriate way, but still sort of focuses on the individuals, the unit of moral evaluation in a certain way that's important, that I think gets lost, at least in sort of classical maximizing utilitarianism. And I will say, I should also just lay down one of my big biases about this, right? Which is that I sort of have 2 points of entry into this. One is just sort of, being a philosophy nerd. And so of course I have views about all this stuff. But then the other one right? That is, I think oftentimes people, since I do spend most of my time thinking about ethics, thinking about, politics and political theory, that I think that oftentimes people who, like me, reject certain kinds of normative claims about property rights, for example, that would be used to defend the status quo, end up sort of gravitating to utilitarianism because it seems like a very sort of simple and compelling story, right? I mean, like if you see like Sam Cedar, for example, who I like, talk about utilitarianism, right? He's sort of attracted to it for that reason, because he's sort of like, look, here's how I tend to think about things when I think about politics. This seems to fit, right? So there you go.
I'm trying to point out that Thanos was a utilitarian in this discussion, or I'll just get totally wrecked.
Yeah. No,
if I'm like the villain in most movies.
That's right. So, and I want to, in some ways, I sort of feel like it's important to save people from thinking that they need to do that, because from my perspective, it's like I think there is a lot that's very counterintuitive about utilitarianism, and I don't. A lot of my thinking about this is about how to sort of say, look, you can take what's good about that without having to sort of go all the way to the point of, biting all those bullets about, I don't actually think that what Thanos did is probably going to work out well, the utility calculus, but they have, but the actual bullets, like the, pushing people onto trolley tracks, and the harvesting orchids, and and all of that stuff, right? I think you can tell a coherent story that avoids all of that while capturing what's maybe plausible about the view.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.